All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. Welcome back to another video review with your Akazaki Yahoo. And as always, I'm giving all praises, honor, and great esteem unto the Most High Power, Yahweh Bashem HaMashiach wa Malak Yahweh Shai, and to the 12 tribes of Israel who are scattered to the four quarters of the earth. I say shalom, wa baruchim. That is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day when the Most High brings us back together, and we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, under the Most High power, under one covenant, back in our own land with a heart of flesh and no more a heart of stone, with our enemies, our adversaries, and all those who hate us under our feet. All praises to the Almighty Yah. Hallelujah.
So be it. Hallelujah.
Yes, indeed. I'm joined this evening, as always, by my most esteemed Kenaniah. Shalom, Aki.
Hey, shalom, shalom, Aki. Shalom, shalom, Yasharal. Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Barakatham.
Yes, indeed. Most High Yahweh, in the name of his beloved Son, Yahweh Shai, Messiah, bless you. Yes, indeed. All praises to the Most High. So we hit back with another video review. We got a couple of good ones for you, both coming from Black Stories Untold. We're going to begin with the very first one, how the slave diet rewired Black DNA. So the slave diet would have changed our molecular structures, according to this. So let's get to it. Here we go.
Your body is carrying a message written 200 years ago. Chemical markers attached to your genes right now, controlling how you process food, how you handle stress, how your blood vessels respond to pressure, were placed there by starvation your ancestors endured before the Civil War. Black Americans are 60% more likely to develop diabetes. We have the highest hypertension rates in the world. We die 3 to 4 years younger. And doctors will look you in the eye and call it genetics. They're lying. Scientists discovered the truth by studying famine survivors in Europe. 6 months of extreme starvation created permanent changes in DNA that lasted over 60 years. Chemical tags attached to genes controlling metabolism. The survivors' bodies remembered the famine decades later. Storing fat like starvation was always coming. Higher rates of diabetes, heart disease, obesity, all from 6 months of hunger that ended when food returned. But for enslaved Africans, the hunger never ended. For 250 years, through 10 generations of pregnant women surviving on maggot-infested pork and cornmeal while building babies from nothing. Every meal was calculated to keep bodies alive, but weak. Just enough calories to prevent immediate death, not enough to build strong bones or sharp minds. And every single one of those meals was writing instructions into DNA that would affect children not yet born. The system has spent billions making sure you never connect these dots. They'll tell you it's your diet choices, your culture, your genetics. But here's what they won't tell you. The slave diet was biological warfare aimed at your great-great-great-grandmother's womb, and it's still killing us. The evidence is undeniable. Babies born to African immigrant women weigh significantly more than babies born to Black American women. Same genetics, same ancestry, different outcomes. That gap, that's not nature. That's 250 years of forced starvation, leaving molecular scars that medicine is only now beginning to understand. And once you see how deep this conspiracy goes, you'll never look at your health the same way again. The Plantation Commissary. Every Saturday morning, the ritual repeated on plantations across the South. Enslaved adults lined up to receive their weekly ration: 3.5 pounds of salt pork and 1 peck of cornmeal. The pork came from the cheapest cuts, fatty, often spoiled, sometimes still moving with parasites. Calculate the calories, roughly 1,200 per day for people swinging axes 14 hours in southern heat, building the mansions that still stand today. On cotton plantations, the rations were even worse. Enslaved people got their pork and cornmeal, plus a pint of molasses every 2 weeks if the overseer felt generous. Formerly enslaved people who escaped described the food as coarse cornmeal boiled with meat too tainted for white consumption. Archaeologists excavating slave quarters found animal bones in the trash heaps, mostly possum, raccoon, turtle. The enslaved were hunting at night after 16-hour workdays just to supplement starvation rations. Pregnant women got nothing extra. Women forced to work in the fields until labor started, surviving on the same cornmeal and rancid pork while growing babies. Medical records show enslaved infants were born weighing 20 to 30% less than white infants. Plantation owners noted this in their ledgers. Low birth weight meant lower resale value, but feeding pregnant women properly would cut into profits. The malnutrition wasn't incompetence. Enslavers had access to fresh vegetables, dairy, quality meat. They made a calculated decision: feed enslaved people just enough to prevent immediate death. For 250 years, every meal was a slow-acting poison. But the damage went deeper than anyone could have imagined, and it didn't stop when the chains came off. Before we dive deeper into how the slave diet rewired Black DNA, if you believe these hidden histories deserve to be uncovered, subscribe to Black Stories Untold and help us reveal the truths that have been erased for centuries. Now, let's continue the story. When the body breaks, the first sign appears in the mouth. Gums start bleeding for no reason. Teeth loosen. Wounds refuse to heal. Plantation medical records describe enslaved people with spongy gums and putrid ulcers. Textbooks scurvy from months without fresh fruit or vegetables. Doctors documented this and blamed it on natural Negro constitution. They were lying. Vitamin A deficiency causes night blindness. Combined with protein deficiency, it triggers kwashiorkor. The belly swells with fluid while muscles waste away. The calcium deficiency was especially brutal. Without dairy, and with dark skin producing less vitamin D in northern climates, enslaved people developed weak, porous bones that fractured easily. Add the fatty pork that blocks calcium absorption, and you get skeletal systems that couldn't support the labor being demanded. Iron deficiency caused anemia so severe that people described feeling like they were moving through water. Exhaustion, brain fog, hearts working overtime just to pump oxygen-poor blood through the body. But starvation does something beyond vitamin deficiencies, something that doesn't show up in medical records. When your body enters famine mode, your metabolism reprograms itself at the cellular level. Blood pressure rises. Inflammation spreads through organs like a slow fire. The body hoards salt and water. Fat gets stored aggressively, preparing for the next famine that survival instincts know is always coming. This metabolic reprogramming happened in every enslaved body, every single day for multiple generations. The chronic stress flooded bodies with cortisol and adrenaline, stress hormones that in short bursts help you survive, but in constant doses destroy you from the inside. The famine that never ended. The Western Netherlands during the final months of World War II. The occupying military cut off all food shipments as punishment. For 6 months, 4 million people survived on 400 to 1,000 calories per day, about 1/3 of what a body needs. Tulip bulbs became food. People ate sugar beets meant for cattle. Over 22,000 citizens starved to death. Thousands of women were pregnant during the famine. They gave birth to underweight babies. The babies survived, grew up, had families. Everyone assumed the trauma ended when food returned. Decades later, researchers tracked down 2,400 people who had been in the womb during the famine. The scientists took blood samples and examined their DNA against their siblings who hadn't been exposed. The results rewrote everything we thought we knew about inheritance. The famine babies had chemical markers, methyl groups, attached to specific genes that their siblings didn't have. These markers had been there for 60 years. The gene that controls growth and metabolism showed dramatically different methylation. So did genes regulating stress hormones and inflammation. The famine babies had higher rates of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and schizophrenia than their own siblings. 6 months of starvation was still affecting their health 6 decades later. The researchers called it epigenetic inheritance. DNA is your genetic code, the permanent sequence that doesn't change. Epigenetics is the chemical tags that attach to that code, telling certain genes to turn on or off. Extreme environmental stress can place these tags. Unlike genetic mutations, epigenetic changes happen fast and get passed down through generations. The evidence in black bodies. Researchers examined birth weight data across 1.8 million births in the United States. Black babies born to American-born black mothers weighed 250 grams less than white babies, even after controlling for income, education, prenatal care, and maternal health. Then they examined babies born to African immigrant women from Nigeria, Ethiopia, Kenya, Ghana. First-generation immigrants with the same genetic ancestry as black Americans. Those babies weighed the same as white babies, sometimes more. Within 1 or 2 generations in America, birth weights dropped. Being black in America was affecting pregnancy outcomes at a biological level. The medical establishment buried it. Black Americans have the highest hypertension rates in the world, 42% compared to 28% for white Americans, and 23% for Africans in Africa. We develop diabetes at 60% higher rates and die from it twice as often. Heart disease hits us earlier. Life expectancy remains 3 to 4 years shorter. The thrifty phenotype hypothesis explains it. Bodies that experienced generational starvation evolved to store every calorie, expecting the next famine. Great for survival during slavery, lethal when food becomes available. The attack continues. Epigenetic changes can fade if environmental stressors stop. The European famine babies passed some methylation markers to their children, but by the 3rd generation, many had reverted. The country rebuilt. Food security returned. The biological memory gradually weakened. For Black Americans, the stressors never stopped, and researchers discovered the damage was still being written into DNA in real time. Scientists studying accelerated biological aging gave it a name: weathering, the premature breakdown of Black bodies from chronic racism. They measured allostatic load, a composite of stress biomarkers. Black women in their 20s showed scores equivalent to white women in their 40s. By their 50s, Black women had cellular aging markers 7.5 years ahead. Other studies found Black Americans experiencing discrimination had significantly higher C-reactive protein, a marker of chronic inflammation linked to heart disease and early death. The discrimination was measurably changing biology at the molecular level. Researchers examined telomeres, protective caps on chromosomes that shorten as cells age. Black Americans had shorter telomeres than white Americans of the same age. Living in poverty, experiencing police violence, facing employment discrimination, all accelerate cellular aging. The body interprets systemic racism as a constant physical threat. Rewriting the code. The same studies that proved epigenetic inheritance also prove something the system doesn't want you to know. The changes can be reversed. Follow-up research showed that famine survivors who improved their nutrition and reduced stress showed partial reversal of methylation patterns. The epigenetic tags weakened. Gene activity shifted back toward normal. The body could remember healing, just as it remembered trauma. Researchers took children from high-stress environments and placed them in nurturing foster care. Within 3 years, their stress-responsive genes showed measurably different methylation patterns. The biological damage began to heal. Exercise changes methylation on genes controlling inflammation. Months of regular physical activity altered expression of thousands of genes related to immune function. Meditation and therapy reduce cortisol and change methylation on stress response genes. Proper sleep allows DNA repair. Good nutrition in the first 1,000 days from conception to age 2 can prevent trauma transmission to the next generation. Black doulas and midwives are saving lives by reducing stress during pregnancy. When Black women have culturally competent prenatal care, birth weights increase and maternal mortality drops. Community gardens provide fresh vegetables that change metabolism. Therapy programs give people tools to break stress cycles. Breaking the cycle. The processed food industry doesn't just sell meals. It trades in generational trauma. In Black neighborhoods, fast food chains follow a centuries-old blueprint, give just enough to survive, and take everything else in profit. High fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated oils, salt piled like a hidden tax on the body. The modern cornmeal and spoiled pork, redesigned for the 21st century. West African diets once built strength. Vegetables, legumes, whole grains. Soul food preserved that legacy, but corporations twisted it, adding sugar and processed meats while whispering authenticity. What was nourishing became a tool. What was culture became consumption. Trauma lives in the body. Panic attacks, sudden spikes in blood pressure. These are echoes of epigenetic memory, patterns written by ancestors suffering. Trauma-informed therapy shines a light on the invisible wiring, interrupting the signals that keep the body trapped in inherited fear. The stakes are highest before birth. Black maternal mortality is 3 times higher than white. Even for wealthy, educated women, world-class athletes have nearly died in childbirth because doctors refuse to see them. Doulas and culturally competent care aren't luxuries. They are survival. The inheritance. After uncovering how the slave diet reshaped generations of Black bodies, we arrive at the undeniable truth of survival, trauma, and resilience written into our very genes. We are the descendants of people who survived biological warfare. The slave diet attacked DNA across 10 generations. European researchers proved 6 months of famine leaves epigenetic scars for 60 years. American slavery was 250 years. The damage should have destroyed us completely, but we're still here. The medical establishment prescribes medication while ignoring root causes. They did the same during the experiments on Black bodies, watched us deteriorate for decades under the guise of research. That continuous strategy used Black bodies for profit while denying us knowledge to heal. We covered those experiments in another video. The parallels to nutritional warfare prove the conspiracy never ended. Understanding epigenetics gives us biological proof for health disparities the system blamed on our culture and choices. The science confirms what our grandmothers knew. The trauma runs deep. So does the strength. The same bodies that survived impossible odds carried forward something stronger than any epigenetic damage. Your body carries the memory of struggle and the blueprint for liberation. The choice to heal is collective and revolutionary. They tried to break us at the molecular level. We're still standing. Take care of yourself. Your health is resistant. Your healing is reparations you give yourself while we fight for what's owed. Your ancestors survived for you to be here. Honor them by thriving. The story doesn't end here. Keep watching our next video to uncover what comes next and the hidden truths that history tried to bury. Warfare. The slave diet attacked DNA across...
What a disturbing situation, to say the least. And I don't even know where to begin. This research that was done and these comparisons that were made, wow. That is, wow. To think that, matter of fact, go ahead. I don't even know where to start.
You know, along with receiving lies, bad religion, bad and poor treatment, we received, and it's not funny. I guess I'm laughing out loud at how crazy all of it is. But you know, we also received bad diets and bad food. You know, to think that our ancestors would consider receiving swine as a delicacy shows how far we fail. You know, when I say fail because many of us are returning to our heritage, which is the law, statute, and commandments, what we read in the scriptures. Right. You know, these people tried to destroy our minds as well as our spirits, as well as our bodies. I like how the narrator said, we're still here. And that's not because of us being such great people, but it's because of the Most High's mercy, right? And and his favor that he has towards his peculiar people. All praises to the Most High that he chose us, because this would have undoubtedly destroyed any other people had it not been, his peculiar people and his name being placed on us, and him also having plans for us. But yeah, this is disturbing, very disturbing.
Yeah, it's definitely disturbing. It's definitely like, whew, man. He talked about some of those practices where they would go out and hunt and get those, wild animals, possums and things of that nature, and they bring that home and make that food, considering that they were starving. Man, it kind of rings why our people deal with those things even to this day, because that was survival. And now it's I guess it's thought of as cuisine in some places, in some instances. But and that is deep. That is so deep. I did not expect that. That's honestly extraordinary. Thank you, Black Culture, uh, Black Stories Untold. Slacky, Black Stories Untold. So, all right, we're gonna move on to the next video. Man, I hope it's not like that. But okay, this one is the you've been lied to about Malcolm X and MLK. So let's jump to it here.
Everything your history teacher told you about Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X was a lie. Designed to keep you weak, divided, and powerless. The truth died with them in 1965 and 1968, and that was exactly the plan. The FBI tried to blackmail King into ending his life. Malcolm X's convicted assassins were innocent, and the government knew it for 56 years. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are documented facts your textbooks deliberately left out. Because if you understood who Malcolm and Martin really were and how close they came to uniting, you'd realize the entire story was designed to keep Black America from ever building real power. The peaceful dreamer versus the violent radical. Enemies fighting for opposite visions. This story was manufactured to make sure the most dangerous alliance in American history could never happen. Today, I'm exposing 6 lies that have kept us divided for 60 years. 1955. Emmett Till, a 14-year-old black boy from Chicago, was beaten and killed in Mississippi for allegedly whistling at a white woman. His killers were acquitted by an all-white jury in 67 minutes. A year later, Look magazine paid them $4,000 to confess. His mother held an open casket funeral. 50,000 people came. Jet magazine published the photos. Black America saw the truth, and something broke. This was the America where entire Black communities were burned to ash while police watched, where a Black child could be killed and his killers could profit from it. Into this stepped 2 warriors who would terrify the power structure more than any foreign enemy. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. The system made sure neither would live to see 40. Before we continue, if you believe these hidden histories need to be told, subscribe to Black Stories Untold and help us spread the truth they don't want you to know. Now, on to the lies white America has been feeding you for 6 decades. Lie number 1, they were total opposites. Your history teacher gave you the easy story. Martin was good, peaceful, patient. Malcolm was dangerous, angry, violent. Secret FBI documents prove the Bureau created this division on purpose. FBI agents running COINTELPRO planted fake stories claiming Malcolm called King a traitor. They sent anonymous letters trying to start fights. FBI memos from 1964 spell out their goal: prevent the coalition of militant Black nationalist groups, and prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant Black nationalist movement. Malcolm and Martin weren't opposites. They were 2 sides of the same revolution. When Malcolm said, "by any means necessary," in June 1964, he was responding to 4 Black girls: Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robertson, and Denise McNair, killed by a bomb at Birmingham's 16th Street Baptist Church. Malcolm argued black communities had the right to arm themselves when the government wouldn't protect them. King's nonviolence was equally strategic. In Birmingham, 1963, he filled the jails with protesters until businesses couldn't function and the city started bleeding money. When Bull Connor unleashed dogs and fire hoses on teenagers, the images exposed American brutality worldwide. Both men understood power, and the moment their hands reached toward each other, both had to die. Lie number 2. Malcolm X was just an angry militant. Malcolm Little was 6 years old when his father's body was found on streetcar tracks in Lansing, Michigan in 1931. The family believed violent extremists from a hate group called the Black Legion killed him because Earl was organizing for Marcus Garvey. The insurance company ruled it self-inflicted to deny benefits. His mother struggled alone with 7 children. In 1938, she had a mental breakdown and was committed to Kalamazoo State Hospital for 24 years. Malcolm was 13 when he and his siblings were scattered into foster homes. At age 20, Malcolm was sentenced to 8 to 10 years for burglary. In prison, he copied the entire dictionary by hand, read Kant, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, transformed himself from a street hustler into a scholar who would speak at Harvard and Oxford. When he joined the Nation of Islam in 1952, he built an empire. The NOI had about 500 members. By 1963, Malcolm grew it to 100,000. He recruited Muhammad Ali, founded Muhammad Speaks newspaper, reaching 600,000 circulation. He was building black power that didn't need white approval. But here's what destroys the angry militant lie. In 1964, Malcolm left the nation and went to Mecca. He wrote, "I saw tens of thousands of pilgrims from all over the world. They were of all colors, but we were all participating in the same ritual, displaying a spirit of unity and brotherhood." He founded the Organization of Afro-American Unity and started building bridges. In January 1965, while King was locked in a Selma jail, Malcolm traveled to Selma. He met privately with Coretta Scott King and told her, "I want Dr. King to know that I didn't come to Selma to make his job difficult. I really did come thinking that I could make it easier. If the white people realize what the alternative is, perhaps they will be more willing to hear Dr. King." He told a gathering at a Congress of Racial Equality meeting, "We want freedom now, but we're not going to get it saying we shall overcome. We've got to fight to overcome." 3 weeks later, on February 21st, 1965, Malcolm was assassinated while giving a speech at the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem. But Malcolm wasn't the only revolutionary they were rewriting into a cartoon. Lie number 3. Martin was just a peaceful dreamer. Born Michael King Jr. in Atlanta in 1929, Martin grew up watching his father challenge white authority from the pulpit. In December 1955, when Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her bus seat, the 26-year-old King helped organize what became a 381-day boycott of Montgomery's bus system. The black community made up 75% of bus ridership. They crippled the city's transportation revenue for more than a year. King and other organizers arranged carpools and coordinated rides, while the city arrested him and 88 others for conspiracy to interfere with a business. The boycott held. By December 1956, the Supreme Court ruled Alabama's bus segregation laws unconstitutional. They froze King in 1963 with "I Have a Dream" and hoped you'd never learn what came after. On April 4, 1967, exactly 1 year before his assassination, King stood in Riverside Church in New York City and delivered "Beyond Vietnam," a time to break silence. He called the United States government the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, and connected the dots between racism, capitalism, and militarism. He described how America was taking the black young men who had been crippled by our society and sending them 8,000 miles away to guarantee liberties in Southeast Asia, which they had not found in Southwest Georgia and East Harlem. He demanded America undergo a radical revolution of values and shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. The backlash was instant and brutal. The Washington Post published an editorial titled "A Tragedy," saying King had diminished his usefulness to his cause, to his country, and to his people. The New York Times accused him of linking two public problems that are distinct and separate. The NAACP passed a resolution condemning King's anti-war stance. Civil rights leader Ralph Bunche accused him of making a serious tactical mistake. King lost allies, donations dried up, and the FBI marked him for destruction. But he pushed forward anyway. In December 1967, he announced the Poor People's Campaign, a plan to bring 3,000 poor people of all races to Washington, D.C. to occupy the National Mall until Congress passed an economic Bill of Rights guaranteeing employment, a living wage, and housing. They would build Resurrection City, a shantytown on federal land, and refuse to leave until their demands were met. This wasn't about asking nicely anymore. This was about forcing the government's hand through economic disruption. King was killed in Memphis on April 4, 1968, while organizing striking sanitation workers. But here's the lie that made it all possible. The lie that kept these two giants from ever joining forces. Lie number 4. They hated each other. March 25, 1964, U.S. Capitol Building. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. met for the first and only time. Both were attending Senate hearings on the Civil Rights Act. After King finished the press conference, Malcolm approached him in the hallway. They shook hands, exchanged pleasantries. Photographers captured one image of them smiling together. The entire encounter lasted less than a minute, but the media spun this into a decades-long rivalry that kept Black America divided over whose tactics to follow. Secret FBI documents reveal the truth. The Bureau worked deliberately to prevent any alliance. COINTELPRO memos from 1964 describe operations to prevent the coalition of militant Black nationalist groups, and specifically to keep Malcolm's followers from joining forces with King's movement. After Malcolm's assassination, King wrote to Malcolm's widow, Betty Shabazz, "While we did not always see eye to eye on methods to solve the race problem, I always had a deep affection for Malcolm and felt that he had the great ability to put his finger on the existence and root of the problem." By early 1965, both men were moving toward the same revolutionary understanding. Malcolm was reaching out to SNCC organizers like John Lewis and Fannie Lou Hamer, offering his organization as support for the more militant civil rights workers who were tired of getting beaten without fighting back. King was connecting domestic racism to American imperialism and calling for fundamental economic restructuring. They were converging on a shared truth. The enemy wasn't just segregation laws, but the entire capitalist system that required Black oppression to function properly. Imagine if they'd united. Malcolm's organizing with King's authority, Malcolm's international connections with King's churches, Malcolm's self-defense with King's ability to expose white violence. That would have been unstoppable. The government knew it. That's why neither man lived to see it happen. Lie number 5. Their deaths were tragic coincidences. The FBI began watching King in December 1955, the exact month the Montgomery boycott started. By 1963, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover had personally authorized wiretaps on King's phones and bugs in his hotel rooms. On November 21, 1964, just days after King won the Nobel Peace Prize, the FBI mailed an anonymous package to King's home. It contained a tape recording of King in various hotel rooms obtained through illegal surveillance. The letter that came with it, later confirmed to be from the FBI, was read by King and his staff as a threat, telling him to delete himself before accepting his Nobel Prize. One line read, "There is only one way out for you. You better take it before your filthy, abnormal, fraudulent self is bared to the nation." The United States government tried to drive Martin Luther King Jr. to end his life. That's not speculation. That's documented fact the FBI admitted to. Malcolm was equally targeted. FBI files show the Bureau had planted informants inside the Nation of Islam since the 1950s. After Malcolm left the NOI in 1964, surveillance got even heavier. On February 21st, 1965, Malcolm was assassinated at the Audubon Ballroom. 3 Nation of Islam members were arrested: Talmadge Hayer, Norman 3X Butler, and Thomas 15X Johnson. During the trial, Hayer confessed to the murder, but testified that Butler and Johnson were innocent and that his actual accomplices were not even on trial. Despite his testimony, all 3 men were convicted. Butler and Johnson maintained their innocence for decades. In 2021, 56 years later, a New York judge threw out their convictions, calling them a miscarriage of justice. The government knew they were innocent. They let 2 innocent black men die in prison to hide the truth about who really killed Malcolm X. King was shot on April 4th, 1968 in Memphis. James Earl Ray was convicted of the crime. But in 1999, the King family brought a civil case seeking answers. After a month-long trial, a Memphis jury unanimously found that King was assassinated as the result of a conspiracy involving the Memphis police, organized crime figures, and government agencies. Lloyd Jowers, who owned a bar below the rooming house where Ray allegedly shot from, testified that he was paid $100,000 by a Memphis produce dealer with organized crime connections to help arrange the assassination. Both men were under constant FBI surveillance. Both were targeted by COINTELPRO. Both were deemed threats to national security, not because they were violent, but because they were effective at organizing black people to challenge the system. And the government benefited from both deaths. Lie number 6. Their legacies are taught accurately. After taking the lives of Malcolm and Martin, the government did something more clever than erasing them. They rewrote them into harmless symbols. Malcolm got frozen as the angry militant, his intellectual growth after Mecca deleted from textbooks. His final year reaching out to civil rights groups, building coalitions, and developing international solidarity networks? Gone from the story. They kept just enough of his militancy to scare people away from actually studying his political analysis of capitalism and imperialism. King got sanitized into a safe dreamer. His 1967 condemnation of America as the greatest purveyor of violence in the world? Erased. His demand for a radical revolution of values that would dismantle capitalism? Ignored. His Poor People's Campaign calling for wealth redistribution barely gets a mention. Corporate America now plasters his face on advertisements during MLK Day sales, offering discounts in his name. They've transformed a revolutionary who died organizing striking workers into a mascot for the system he fought against. This serves a purpose. A divided black movement arguing over whether to follow Malcolm or Martin stays weak and predictable. The sanitized King allows white liberals to celebrate civil rights without confronting their role in capitalism and ongoing oppression. The demonized Malcolm lets the media paint any black person demanding self-defense as an extremist who needs to be stopped. Meanwhile, the FBI admitted in 2018 that they watched Black Lives Matter using tactics identical to COINTELPRO. The war on black liberation never ended. The methods just got more sophisticated. You've been lied to because the truth threatens power. Both understood racism, capitalism, and militarism were connected. Both moved toward unified action, combining moral pressure, economic disruption, self-defense, and international solidarity. Evidence strongly suggests government involvement, from surveillance and harassment to exonerated killers to the 1999 conspiracy verdict. To honor them means rejecting the lies. Read Malcolm's post-Mecca speeches. Read Beyond Vietnam. Understand their complete evolution. Refuse to choose between their strategies. Black liberation requires combining all approaches: protest and institution building, moral appeals and economic pressure, integration and self-determination, nonviolence and self-defense. Malcolm and Martin were killed, but their vision survives. Black people united across differences, economically independent, internationally connected, willing to fight for complete liberation by any means necessary. That vision still terrifies power. which is why we must speak it, teach it, and live it. If you want to resist the whitewashing of history, subscribe and share this video.
Wow, that's another good video, and I think it's a lot of validity to that, because indeed, I've said before that they were seeming to come into the same message, and it's amazing how they stopped at the "I Have a Dream" speech and didn't progress that any further, because I never even heard of the Vietnam speech he's mentioning. Shame on me. I should have dug deeper, but I never even heard of it. But like we talked about before, what if they would have combined? What that mean for us today? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying, I wonder, what could have been if they did. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like they did. I feel like they were on the same page with the advancement of our people. You know what I mean? So perhaps behind closed doors, they were on the same page. However, the media and the powers that be, they loved what MLK had to say, that all men are treated equal. Of course, they would love to hear that and want to believe that, but that's not what the scriptures tell us, right? So yeah, they're gonna feed into that, that idea. They're gonna feed into the idea of I can go upside your head and you're not gonna do anything about it, So there was a plan to keep those men divided. However, Brother Malcolm was far too intelligent for that. I come away from this video with even more love for the man, of how he went to Malcolm's wife and telling her that perhaps that these people will deal more kindly with my brother if they know that I'm here and that I'm more oppositional than him. That's grand wisdom, Mark.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. That's a whole nother level. And I can't help but to scratch my head and wonder what if. But what if these brothers would have been not contemporaries, but what if they would have been uh, consecutive? You had Brother Malcolm, and then you had the next generation would have been Brother Martin. But for them both at that time frame, and to be born so close together, and then to be executed so close together, crazy. But Karen, man, good stuff. Thanks again to Black Culture. I'm sorry, I keep saying it wrong. Let me pull it up here. I want to give them the proper credit. Black Stories Untold, Slacky. Good stuff, very good stuff, and lots of good information on both of those videos. I'm glad we finished with this one because I feel a little bit better, even just getting able to see Brother Malcolm and Elder Brother Martin as well, both of those elder brothers. But we'll go ahead and close this on now. We don't keep y'all on here all night. Our praises to the Most High for the ability to come together and do these video reviews, look into this information and find out something that you might not have known, just something for the good of your understanding. And it's certainly going to provoke, as he said, go out and check out that information. As always, links in the description box. We do this for a specific purpose. Why do we do it? Number one, we want to, Romans chapter 10 and verse 1, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Abba for Israel is that they might be saved. We want to see our people saved. We want to see our people set free. We want to see our people restored to the prominence that the Most High had promised us. How are we going to do it? First of all, we're going to keep the faith and the belief in Hamashiach, the Messiah, in his return, and doing that which the Most High have commanded him to do. And number two, Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 13, let us see the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. It is so very important to understand that in the conclusion of the whole matter, we are to fear the Most High and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. At the end of the day, when it is all said and done, all the dust is settled and all the smoke is cleared, we will be judged on whether we have feared the Most High and kept his commandments. Why? Because this is the whole duty of man. I am your Akataki Yahoo, as always, joined by my most esteemed Akidanaya, and as always, giving all praises, honor, and great esteem unto the Most High Power, Yahweh Bashem Hamashiach wa Malak, Yahweh Shah, and to the 12 tribes of Israel, who are scattered to the four quarters of the earth. I say Shalom, Wa, Baruchim. That is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day when the Most High brings us back together and we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, under the Most High power, under one covenant, back in our own land with a heart of flesh and no more a heart of stone, with our enemies, our adversaries, and all those who hate us under our feet. Until that day come. Shalom, family.
Shalom, shalom, Mr. Pekah.
All praises to the Most High. Praise you, Abba Yah, Kwam Yasha'Allah,
Kwam Yashala.
and Barak Hashem Yahweh.